Hello, this is Todd Wall from Aquatine Media, and I wanted to discuss a story that I saw in the New York Post. It was actually pretty disturbing, and before I go into any more detail, I did want to advise that if anyone out there who's listening to this is a more sensitive listener, and particularly sensitive in regards to hearing descriptions of violence, this might not be the right story to listen to. But the headline of the story is Mystery Tree Slasher on the Loose in New York City following attempted arboricide. They just want attention, is the quote. And so the story begins, someone's been naughty. A mysterious blade-wielding hacker is on the loose in Queens after slicing up two healthy trees in what city officials have ominously dubbed an apparent attempted arboricide, the Post has learned. The two victims stand next to one another on a quiet Ridgewood street, leaving outraged neighbors hungry for justice. Whoever is doing this just wants attention. They're a effing idiot. I would like, if we could, to catch who it is. I would love to see that, said Joseph Hernandez, 42, who was shocked to discover such carnage could have taken place across from his familial home. And if you can see right here, there's a picture of a tree which has a big slice in the middle of it. Pretty substantial. I don't know how significantly this threatens the tree's viability and health and ability to kind of stand upright, but it looks pretty significant. The story continues. The disturbing act was discovered earlier this week during a routine annual inspection of the foliage along St. John's Road in Ridgewood, which has a history of anti-tree attacks, which is interesting. The trees, a hulking pine oak and a much slimmer Japanese pagoda, had each suffered a single deep slash that ran several inches deep. Their crude cuts ran about half the circumference of the oak, but ran the entire trunk of the pagoda, which outraged neighbors said was a relatively new addition to the block. It looked like it was maybe a chainsaw or something, speculated Hernandez. Yeah, I mean, if you look at these slices, they're not insignificant. I don't know what type of tool would do that. Maybe a handsaw. I don't know about a chainsaw. I mean, someone would have to. Seems like that would catch some attention. I think people would hear that. The story continues. It looks like a straight slash and it's deep. This is deep. It's not just like you can do this with a knife. You've got to have heavy machinery to do something like that, and it's got to be loud. I don't think you could do that type of damage with a machete. I think you probably could do that damage with a machete. This is what provides us a way of living. It's stuff we exchange oxygen with. So it's like why, seethed Hernandez, a middle school math teacher and dad of two. So he's in the neighborhood. He's pretty upset about these trees being sliced into. His wife, Jenny Castro, was equally disheartened to see the damage both trees sustained and expressed shock that the tiny pagoda with just a diameter of 23 inches was still standing. What's the purpose? I mean, you destroy the tree or that tree, and what do you get out of it? What's the actual purpose of you destroying the tree? The 45-year-old Department of Education school social worker said. This is a side note. This is kind of interesting. I didn't know this. I was reading an article where they were talking about as you have more, as we've progressed as a society, and I'm going completely off topic here, as we progressed as a society, it's less and less frequently that you see women take their husband's name when they get married. More and more often the case, they're sort of retaining their original name. I was unaware until I read this article that it was never really a custom in Latin America to do that. So it is my understanding that, for example, her name is Jennifer Castro. His last name is Hernandez. So in Latin America, the custom is really not for women to take the husband's last name, which I thought was pretty interesting. In any event, the story continues. The trees which stand next to each other on the south side of the road are just 2 of 8 on the narrow block. The pine oak is especially beloved in the Hernandez household since they moved into their home 17 years ago. So they've been there quite a while. This has always been here. It's one of the biggest trees on the block. I like how they show the age of the block in the community. It shows it's lasted time and generations, Hernandez continued. The couple couldn't recall when the gnarly gnashes first appeared on the trees, but believed that the oak was targeted first, and then the bushwhacker came back for more. The couple called on authorities to nab the tree slasher. And so this is kind of interesting. If you look at, there's a little note that they put on the tree. This tree has been harmed and we need your help. So they're trying to get the neighbors aware, if they're not already aware, walking past this slashed tree, that basically the tree is in need of help. So the story continues. Number one, you're not only doing harm to the trees. I have kids, I have twins. I don't want my kids seeing people slashing trees and doing harm to the environment stuff. Like, what are they learning, said Hernandez. Fellow St. John's Road resident Stephanie Sarmiento, 34, theorized the culprit is living among the outraged neighbors and may have been trying to expedite a tree removal process. This is kind of interesting. So this person's thinking that the person's a local. It's not someone coming from the outside, and the idea is that maybe they want the trees removed, and this is kind of a way to get the city to do it. Obviously, the city's not going to remove healthy trees. So the story continues. The pair of trees are healthy according to the city data, meaning they would not be removed unless they were otherwise damaged. If they feel like the tree is harming the pavement of their house, they should call 311, just like I did. I didn't harm my trees, the city health department worker said. You need to catch whoever's damaging the trees. It's horrible. Fortunately, the Parks Department is already on the hunt for the culprit for the crime of apparent attempted arboricide. They like using that term because you don't hear arboricide very often. Wanted signs have been hung on the sappy victims, imploring the public to turn over information regarding the culprit. With each reading, this tree has been harmed and we need your help. So anyway, this I thought was a very interesting story. Hopefully they'll find the culprit. It sounds like the culprit might actually be a neighbor. I hope there's a follow-up to the story. Sometimes stories like this are published and then you don't really know what happens, but hopefully this story seems big enough and important enough that I think we'll see a follow-up hopefully when the perpetrator is caught. But in any event, this is Todd Wall from Aquatongue Media. I appreciate you taking the time to listen to this story and look forward to talking to you again in the future. Take care.